So when I did the Jujutsu Kaisen video, I kind of put it in there that I am a huge fan of Joseph Joestar, which by extension makes me a huge fan of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. And someone in the comments, back when I bothered giving that video's comment section a chance, was like, you should talk about Jojo's. So I was like, okay, let's talk about Jojo's. I mean, now is the perfect time considering the Part 7 anime is not anywhere close to being announced. Well, Part 9 is somewhere in the early part of it. I kind of fell off mostly just because I forgot to keep up with it. Wow, I guess there really is no like special reason to talk about JoJo's, is there? Well, fuck it, let's do it anyways. I got nothing else planned for this week. So, today we are starting off our little series where we talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Because it's no fun to just like do one big video talking about the whole franchise because there's way too fucking much shit to talk about with JoJo's. We're just gonna do the classic one video per every part. I'll do one of these every now and again when I don't really have any other pressing thing I really want to talk about that week, and we'll just kind of work our way through each series. And where better place to start than, of course, is Part 1, Phantom Blood. But wait! Many of you are saying, isn't Part 1 the one you skip? Like, Parts 1 and 2, they don't have stands or the more common formula. So why even bother? Jonathan's so boring when you can just start off with Part 3. No! I am here to tell you all today that if you fall into that category, which I don't know how many people actually fall into that category, but if you're one of these people I've made up over the top of my head, I am here to tell you that you should 100% watch or read parts 1 and 2. Some of you may say the best reason is just so that way you get more context for Dio in part 3, which is very correct. We'll go into Dio more throughout this video. But I do genuinely believe there is a lot of good stuff in part 1 and a lot of great stuff in part 2. So that is what we are going to highlight today. Starting off with what I think is the best aspect of part 1, and obviously the thing we kind of just brought up, and that is Dio himself. Dio Brando is a man who needs no introduction. This is one of the most popular villains in all of anime. Everyone loves the world and all his crazy insanity in part 3. But what if I told you that if you skip part 1, you are missing prime Dio. You are missing the best Dio we'll ever get. Now don't get me wrong, part 3 Dio is entertaining as all hell. Part 1 Dio is truly, genuinely terrifying. This is the most compelling the character will ever get. And honestly, if I had done what I originally done, where I just started part 3 because it was an anime on at the time, I hadn't even heard of JoJo's when part 3 started. If I had like kept up with it and watched it all the way to the end, I just stopped just because I didn't have time to watch the whole thing. If I had kept up with it, I would not have cared about defeating Dio for more than just like another bad guy who's in the way. But part 1 really makes Dio interesting. And I think a lot of that comes from the thing that people don't like about part 1, and that is the simple straightforwardness of it. Part 1 is a very simple story. You have good, kind-hearted gentleman Jonathan Joestar, who is living like the perfect rich British aristocratic lifestyle, until one day when his father takes in the orphaned son of a highwayman he once knew, Dio Brando. And the minute Dio shows up, Dio has this irrational obsession with destroying Jonathan's life. He decides that he is going to take every aspect of this guy's life apart, piece by piece. Why, you may be asking? Well, I think that's really interesting to think about. Because Dio is presented as being very intelligent. Dio is more than willing to understand that all he's got to do is play the role of a good adopted son, and he can end up with a happy life. But that's not enough for this guy. Dio wholeheartedly believes the most logical thing for him to do is to not just weasel his way into the family fortune. It is to destroy Jonathan, to take his place as like the son, like the star of the family. Why? He kind of just wants to. This is a guy who's had a crummy life, and he's going to make the world suffer for what he's gone through, and he is going to be the one who delights in every second of every fucked up thing he does. And yeah, the way the series presents it, it feels very fucked up. You feel Jonathan's pain. You feel his anger. This is a genuinely good person who is just having everything taken from him for no reason. And when you see him fight back, and when you see him struggle and push apart Dio and fight back, it's really fun to watch. Is this the most compelling Jojo will ever get? No, there is a lot more stuff in all the other parts I like more, but there is something to be said about this very just simple story of fighting the demon in your life that I think is just really fun and entertaining to watch. Now, the next kind of thing you have to get into is, but there's no stands. Well, no, in parts 1 and 2, we have Haman, which is just like magic vampire killing energy. And while that isn't as interesting or creative as stands do get, I do like the way it's used. You really do see the groundwork for everything that would become JoJo's going forward really start to set itself up here. The way that as each fight gets, there's all these weird little like just tricks and idiosyncrasies and ideas people come up with that would later define stand battles. And I think you really come to appreciate these things as you start from the beginning and move forward through each part. On top of that, you also just have fucking Speedwagon, the greatest best friend in anime. How can you not like this guy? Again, he is very simple. His whole shtick is that he just meets Jonathan, sees he's like a really cool dude, and decides, I am going to be this guy's best friend forever. And again, like, you just kind of buy it. Like, this world is just that right combination of zany and over the top, but also legitimately cool that you're kind of just in. Now, some of you may say that I spent so much time bashing Jujutsu Kaisen for not having a lot to it. So why is it ultimately okay here? And I think the reason above all else it works specifically in part 1, we'll get into it as we get into each part, but I think part 1 in particular really does hammer home that emotion. That's what I've been talking about this whole video. Just the way you feel Jonathan's fear and his paranoia as Dio does all this fucked up shit. And then like as Dio gets more powerful and the fucked up shit gets crazier and crazier, I think that proper sense of escalation, that proper sense of character drama, all these things that JoJo's would later become famous for, I think it all starts here. And it's very well complemented by the story that is built around it. Now, we're going to do something I don't do a lot on this channel and talk about some of the access elements involving part 1. Why? Because I'm kind of running out of things to talk about and I gotta get the video 10 minutes, but also I think it's kind of interesting to see how different aspects of the JoJo anime adaptations evolve overall. And the first thing I want to talk about is the animation and visuals themselves. Many people have criticized the part 1 and 2 adaptations for being very stilted in animation. I would agree, but the way they try and make it feel stylish is very good. In particular, I like just sort of the epicness that the fights tend to have when they need to. I do, however, feel that something that all the anime parts kind of lack, there is this like fun fluidity to Araki's more goofier moments that I don't think the anime quite captures because it tries to go with that more sort of Adonis Greek god style Araki applies to his character designs. That being said, I do like the way the character designs have translated overall. Ironic considering I wish Araki would stop trying to just forget this is how he made his characters look. Like, I love the hardcover manga editions, but I wish they translated the actual manga art style of the time, not how Araki would like to look back at the characters on. But that is a personal gripe. If you do pick up the hardcover editions, they're a little pricier than your average manga volume, but I love these things. I own most of them, And honestly, like, wanting to do these videos kind of has me motivated to finish my manga backlog of them. So I might wait to just read through a bunch of stuff before I do the next couple of vids. We'll see. I think I'm like halfway through part 3's manga. But yeah, all in all, JoJo's is great. Oh, and of course, last thing you gotta talk about, last 2 things. The OP and Edie, Sonoshiro Sadame is such a perfect just sum up of everything I've been talking about. This is an OP designed to get your blood pumping, your emotions going. It treats the legend of Jonathan Joestar like this epic legend. And I think that's a really neat way to start you off on this adventure. As for the voice acting, this goes to should you watch sub or dub, since both I'm pretty certain are readily available on all platforms. I am going to be a sub with this one, not a dub. And I don't hate dubs. I like a lot of dubs. A lot of times if I have the option for a dub, I'll check it out. I've actually watched both of these. And the sub takes it because Dio's performance is great. Dub Dio is really good too, but I do much prefer the sub performance. Also, Johnny Young Bosch, I love him in everything except Lelouch and Jonathan. I don't think he gets the character quite right at all. I don't think he really gets that gentlemanly exterior quite right. It just doesn't sound quite right hearing that voice coming from this guy. But that's just my opinion on that matter. Tell me that in the comments section below, and give me your thoughts on part 1. All in all, is this my favorite JoJo part? No, it is definitely towards the bottom. And if you come out of this part being like, well, it wasn't really that great, I totally get what you're saying. But as someone who enjoys all 6 parts of JoJo's that have been animated so far, I do believe this part is worth watching and checking out what is good about it. But give me your thoughts about that in the comments section below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me when we eventually get to part 2 featuring one of my all-time favorite characters, the great Joseph Joestar.